Guys, welcome to Trunk Full of Vintage, the video feed. So for our very first video, I thought it might be helpful to go through all the tools that I have in my toolkit for sort of reworking vintage clothes, that kind of stuff. So this is really basic. I'm by no means a seamstress, so these aren't like expert tools or anything, but these are just kind of like the bases that I've acquired cheaply just so that I can keep all my bases covered. So first things first, I have a pretty simple, inexpensive sewing machine. I lucked out and got this one at Value Village for 20 bucks. It's a Brother, so it's pretty universal, easy to find the instructions online, super easy to use. It's got 14 different stitches. I usually don't use all 14, but it's nice to have a few different ones if you want to do some fancier stitch work. I usually just keep it pretty basic with my hemmings and my alterations though. So, another thing that's pretty invaluable if you're doing a lot of vintage clothes is you're going to want to invest in a really good iron. So I don't use the iron function on mine very much, but I use the steam on it all the time. So because most of the fabrics that you're working with, especially if you're into like the 70s or the 60s or the 80s, there's a lot of polyester. So you got to be pretty careful about the amount of heat that you're using. So I like to use the steam function on my iron. I like to keep the heat nice and low, and that way you're getting rid of all of your wrinkles and you're setting your stitches, but you're not damaging any of the fabric. The steam also has the added cleaning benefits, so you can kind of get rid of that old musty smell without having to wash things, because lots of things, especially formal wear, you can't put in the washing machine. It's dry clean only. So the steam is a nice way around that to kind of keep your costs low without having to do dry cleaning. This is my trusty sewing kit. I like to keep it in a tackle box. 1, because it's portable. 2, because it keeps everything super organized. So I'll give you a look here. That's my sewing kit. And we'll take kind of an in-depth dive so you can see everything that you need to get some basic dress alterations done. Okay, so here's my sewing kit. It's pretty basic. This is sort of like, you could put something like this together for probably under $20 if you're kind of thrifty from Value Village and the dollar store. And this just kind of covers all your bases. So all of the stuff for my sewing machine, the bobbins, needles, thread, and all that is in the sewing machine. It's got a little compartment for storage. So this is more just like my hand sewing, hand alterations kit. So I've got some needles, just sort of a wide variety, large, small. I kind of just accumulated them over the years too. Pin cushion and some safety pins. Safety pins are super handy if you're fitting things on yourself and you're not using a mannequin or you're not using like a model to pin your dresses on. So for most times it's just me around, so I pin my dresses on myself, then I'll take them off and sew them. So safety pins are really handy because they don't come apart. And then I have a measuring tape. So I find that it's really handy to make things according to the sizing charts. So you can find a sizing chart online and then you can kind of put that up on your website, and then that way whenever you sell your clothes you know that you've sized it to a certain size. It's easy for your customers to know what size they are, and it's easy for you to sort of kind of go by the book, and that way you already know what size everything is. You don't have to take the time to individually measure it all. Another thing I travel with is I travel with a little portable tape measure. This will just always be in my purse. Really great for sizing things if you're out and about vintage shopping looking for a certain item, etc. This way the sizing charts in the past are not always true to what they are now, so you can find out what size things are according to your sizing chart that you choose with a little tape measure. So I always have this on me in my purse, my pocket, you name it. I got thread. I usually just have black thread, and then I'll go out and buy others if I need other colors, but for the most part, for what I do, black suits me pretty good. Another thing I have is elastic. So elastic's really handy because in a lot of older pieces, the elastic itself will be worn out, so it doesn't have that stretch to it anymore. So I just like to have a few different varieties on hand so I can replace any elastics that might be damaged. Or sometimes you can add like a waist or something with a little piece of elastic. Sometimes you can kind of cap the sleeve. There's a few little tips and tricks you can do with an elastic that really take a lot of the seamstress sewing tailoring work out of the equation, and also kind of make it flattering for a few different fits. Then I have a stitch ripper. Stitch ripper is super handy for basically anything. If you want to pull something apart and you don't want to damage the fabric, this way you can just re-stitch it after. So this is a key. And then I have some super fine scissors to do any kind of fine cuts that I might need. As you can see, like the point on them is really, really fine. So those are great. And then I have some super glue. Sometimes super glue can be really handy because there won't be enough fabric to actually fix something with sewing. So if you want to put like a seam back together that might have totally been blown out, you can't put stitches back in, super glue can be super handy for something like that. I usually don't use super glue on items I'm planning to sell, but if I'm planning on wearing them myself, then I'll fix it with super glue, because then I know it's a little bit easier. I have a ruler. I know I have a tape measure too, but rulers are perfect for straight edges. They're awesome for kind of getting the bottom seams done, that kind of stuff. I have some fishing line. Fishing line's great because one, it's see-through, and two, it's super strong. So if you're using fishing line as opposed to traditional thread, you know that your seams won't come apart as easily, which is nice. A little more peace of mind. I have another set of scissors, which they're always sharpened. I use them only for fabric, so they don't get dull or anything. If you use them for paper or anything else, it dulls them really quick, but if you use them just for fabric, they stay nice and sharp. And then I have a bag of buttons. Just kind of collect random buttons that I find, buttons that come extra on my clothes. They're always great. Sometimes you can replace ugly old buttons, or sometimes the buttons from vintage things are missing entirely. So it's always good to have a bag of that. Another super handy thing is double-sided tape. I use this if I'm fitting something on myself. So like I said before, usually I don't have a mannequin or I don't have someone around helping me. So I will try it on. I'll use double-sided tape to sort of get the seams where I want them to. And then I can take it off and sew it without having to worry about the pins and kind of the fabric getting messed up. So this is really handy if you don't have a model or a mannequin. Eventually going to invest in a mannequin, but this does good for now. And then I have just a bag of jewelry. So if I have a necklace that breaks, or if I get given like cheap jewelry that I don't like, or whatever, you name it, I'll just put it in this bag, because often you can use the beads or like the clasps or you name it to embellish a dress or to fix a dress. So lots of times I've fixed dresses with jewelry clasps or whatever. It just keeps you from having to buy extra stuff. So that's my sewing kit. As you can see, it's really basic. It's, there's not much to it, but it kind of covers all of your bases for getting sort of all your basic jobs done, especially with the vintage dress reworks that we do. They're all of a pretty small skill set, so this is a nice sort of starting point. Best thing, super portable. You can take it to a friend's house, you can shake it around, nothing gets messed up. I love the tackle box. Can't endorse that enough. Yeah, so those are my supplies.